today, I came to LAFIC, which is the Leafcutter Ant Laboratory in Rio Claro, in the countryside of Sao Paulo, to find out how a savant colony works. But this time, this trip was online. Shall we check it out? It's been a while since we tried to start an ant colony on Manuel do Mundo. My mom caught some isas in P-Dade. We brought them here and we took good care of these ants to try to get them to start a new colony. But everything went wrong, and we ended up failing in the mission to create a new ant colony.
I was waiting in the undertow.
Afterward, many people sent us tips on improving the ant colony and the best ways to raise the isa. And one email caught our attention, which was from Danilo, who works with myrmecology, which is the area of biology that studies ants. So, what we're going to see today is an amazing leafcutter ant colony that's over at Winisp in Rio Claro. And if you also work with something really cool to show, write to us, okay? Hey, how are you all doing? Hey.
Everything okay.
In the lab, the anthill is made of acrylic containers, so we can see how the entire ant society works. They do everything to maintain the same process that exists in nature. But before talking about how this anthill works, let's go to the first step, capturing the ants. They collect the ants that will be part of the anthill in two stages. The first is during the swarming season between October and December. That's when these large flying ants, the issus, meet in the air to mate. The princess ants mate with the mitis, which are the males. And when she is fertilized, she becomes a queen ant. Look at these crazy images they sent us. This ant cuts off her own wings after mating. Right after that, she will dig and lay her eggs to start a new anthill. That's what we want. The researchers will collect the queen and this fungus garden that she prepares to feed the new colony. Don't worry about the males, they died right after mating. A second field collection is done 5 to 6 months after the nuptial flights.
At this point, these anthills have a small mound of earth, and it's on top of this mound that the excavation is done. Right. We go straight in because the goal is to collect them, not observe how they're distributed. And the vast majority at this point are found at around 20 to 30 centimeters deep.
It's still shallow.
It's still shallow. If that time passes like 8 or 9 months, the chamber will already be 1.5 meters deep. The number of anthills collected is much lower.
The collected ants are placed in small jars before being transferred to the acrylic structures. We can see that some little ants have already been born there. During the last 2 months, they came out of the eggs, turned into larvae, and then pupae, which is this stage where they still don't move. Then they will become adults. These first ones are the worker leafcutter ants, a sterile type that doesn't reproduce. Actually, except for the queen, no other ant in this society can reproduce. But don't worry, this colony is just getting started. When the fungus sponge is about the size of a closed fist, they transfer the nest to the permanent nest.
This transfer, in the central pot, is a container with a plaster base. What is the importance of the plaster? It's to maintain the humidity, so Danilo will moisten this plaster because of the fungus garden. And now, carefully, he will transfer it. He takes this sponge very carefully and gently places it at the bottom of the jar. After that, he will cut small pieces of leaf, he will put them in this pen. Central camera, and up to a certain size, the feeding is done in this central jar. Then, the ants are the ones who choose which of the chambers will be the foraging area and which will be the trash area.
Wait a minute. Trash area. Yes, in nature. Ants organize everything into chambers, like rooms underground. And in the lab, they do the same thing. In one place, they store the fresh and dry vegetables they've collected. In another, there's the fungus garden they cultivate using those vegetables, which are delicately placed in the garden. The fungus is the main food for these ants, so taking care of this garden is very important. Elsewhere, they dump waste made up of old leaves, dried fungus, and dead ants. They constantly manage this waste. New food arrives on one side as waste exits on the other. Okay, but without the food they get from nature, how do these ants manage in the laboratory? In this case, the researchers leave food for the ants to collect, and it's a feast. Look at that. Leaves, oats, flour, pieces of fruit. When it's time to take out the trash, they should help, since in nature trash stays and becomes fertilizer. Removal is done weekly. Hold on. They were hiding the best part. Finally, we've arrived at the giant ant nest room.
This is just one colony. All these posts make up only one colony.
At the moment, we have two gigantic colonies, right? Let's say one is mature, one is immature, and there are about 200 small colonies, all capable of surviving for several years. It's just that over time we do some work and end up reducing it, but the number is relatively large. That's why I have this whole team to take care of these ant colonies, right? Many of the ants walking around in that arena are already old. They no longer serve a function in the colony. Because in nature, when they go out to collect food, many of them are preyed upon, and that doesn't happen there. So it's just feeding there. At the moment you take the ants out of here, the opposite signal is sent. That stimulates the queen to lay more eggs and produce more brood.
It's more or less like pruning.
That's right, exactly. If you start leaving all of that there, what's going to happen? Egg production for new workers will decrease farther back in the colony.
And why is that so important? Because ants live in a very organized and efficient society. And each ant has its own role to keep the anthill alive. The queen is the only one responsible for creating the anthill, reproducing, and laying eggs. The Bitus are the males, and their only function is to mate with the queen. They only live in the colony during mating season and die soon after. Their sperm is stored in an organ of the queen called the spermatheca. The sterile workers take care of the colony and are divided into classes. The cutters or carriers, who cut the leaves and carry them to the nest. The gardeners, who take care of the fungi, and the nurses, who are responsible for the eggs, larvae, and all the ants before they become adults. Trash collectors clean the anthill and move waste far from the fungus to prevent contamination. And finally, the soldiers who protect the anthill from threats like predators and even other ants. Aside from a brief role by males, this society consists only of females.
A colony of the Atta genus can reach up to 7 million individuals. That's a lot of ants per colony. As we've already mentioned, these ants cut leaves to feed the fungus and then feed on it themselves. So, because of such a large population, the leaf cutting by these ants is very intense. And one of the research lines in our laboratory is precisely to find effective methods to control these ants without harming the environment.
On the research side, we are able to conduct experiments throughout the entire year at any time because we have ant colonies here. and we don't depend on collecting them in nature. Both to understand what the ant is like individually and what the colony is like. From behavior analysis to the latest developments in molecular biology and biochemistry. In terms of teaching, we use this for outreach, and we also keep these large ant farms for public visits. Fuming. Another thing we do, and that's why we need a larger number of ant farms, is to work together with companies, with ant control firms. Because the reforested areas that are established need ant control. And we also provide consulting for organic farms. Every year you have to control the ants.
Because the new ice people come, they're wanting to dig. One leaves.
Another one shows up.
I'm very happy. I really like the footage. I think the audience will like it a lot. And I still want, after this, at the end of the year, when swarming season comes around again, to try to start the ant colony again. But now, with this information from you guys, which will be very valuable, really cool.
Thank you.
We already have a history with ants here on Manual do Mundo. Once, we showed that some ants shoot jets of acid. We went to the anthill and took paper that changes color when it comes into contact with acid. And we managed to prove it.